Hello and thank you for joining us on Newsweek, where we have some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. I am Mark Autonomy. This week, Supreme Court grants full autonomy to LGAs or the federal government to the direction. Also, federal government unveils 180 plan to slash food. Later on the show, Senate President Dr. Lakpado says states rich enough to pay proposed minimum wage. All the details in a moment. Stay with us. This week, the Supreme Court of Nigeria ruled that 774 areas be given financial autonomy across the federal region. Apex initially heard the suit in the federal and state government the autonomy of local governments on June 13 its judgment. In its ruling, the Supreme Court ordered that full financial autonomy be granted to the areas, recognizing them as an independent segment of the federation. In addition, the Supreme Court mandated that applications from federation account local governments must be paid them henceforth by offers. Justice Adams said that withholding funds by state governors disrupts the operation of local governments. Of course, joining me to discuss this issue is Folashade Olabanji Oba, National Chairman of Local Government, Vice Chairman of Nigeria, and Executive Vice Chairman Ikorodu LG Lagos State. Folashade, good evening and thank you for joining on the show today.
Good evening, sir.
All right. There was wide jubilation across the local government councils in the country hearing the news of the autonomy. Now, how would you react to the recent development?
Oh, definitely. We want to commend and hail His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is really historical, and also commend the Supreme Court for this, because definitely it's going to mean great things for the grassroots, okay? The local government, being the third tier of the government, would then be able to fully complement the tremendous works that the governors are doing in the different states across board. So I want to say this is historical, and it really shows the ingenuity and commitment of the president to grassroots development in deepening democracy in the local governments.
All right, now there are actually fears concerning accountability on the part of local government chairmen. And of course, when that news broke out, the fears of the people were once again reiterated with the fact that they fear that the way they conduct themselves when monies get into their coffers might be an issue. Do you share the same sentiment?
No, I wouldn't think so, because the structure is there to check balance whatever it is that it's been done across boards. So I just know that it's a people's project, so the people will definitely be better off for it at the end of the day.
All right, now we operate a democratic system of government. Now, how did we descend to a system wrought that gave governors the free will to pocket local government without conducting elections? Do you have an idea? Maybe you might want to, broaden our horizon.
I probably won't be able to react on that, because I can talk about my state, which is Lagos State, State of Excellence. I mean, we've always done that. So in the different states, we all talk about politics being local. But one good thing I would want us to know that the governor of Kwara State, who is the chairman for the Governors Forum, was also pretty excited, saying that, yes, burdens off their head and all that, and is back to work for each tier of the government. And, meaning that at the end of the day, the people will truly have better quality of lives and everything promised, education, healthcare, projects and all, especially insecurity. So I think the Governors Forum is also excited about that.
With my guest in the studio here, Nelson Ekujime, political analyst. Now, Nelson, you heard the question I reiterated the other time. Now, how did we descend to this point where governors refused to conduct local government elections, they started having caretaker committees and all of that? in a democratic system where local government should have been given the free will to actually run their affairs connecting to the grassroots?
Well, thank you very much. I first and foremost, I must describe this judgment by the Supreme Court as victory for democracy.
Right.
It's victory for the Nigerian people. We must also commend, like he stated, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for taking that bold step. You know, this is a battle that has been on for close to 2 decades. And where we got to this route was because of the military intervention. Because before the military intervention, we had local government running, you know, pari passu with states. But under military dictatorship, you know, it's a centralized system. And also, we must not run away from the fact that at a point in time during the life of the military regime in this country, we had issues with local government administration whereby local government were owing workers' salary, were owing primary school teachers, that the hue and cry in the society made the government of the day then, you know, to take away that powers from the local government. So that was where we started the descent. But thank God, over the years, we have continued to clamor that this is what we want. We want autonomy for the local government. And glory be to the Almighty God that the Supreme Court, in its judgments, has affirmed what is explicitly written in the Constitution, that the local government must be run democratically, and that is where we are today.
Okay, now you said they should be run democratically, which is quite agreeable on all across all boards. Yeah. Now, what legal framework should be adopted to actually checkmate the activities of these local government operations? Because right now, the fate of the people from the grassroots is in the hands of this, completely in the hands of local government chairmen.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's a system of government and it has processes and procedures.
Okay.
So these procedures and processes are also in place even at other tiers of government, maybe federal or state. So talking about mismanagement of funds, I think we must also recognize that governance is a collective responsibility. People should stop assuming that ensuring accountability and transparency is the work of the EFCC or ICPC. Civil society organizations, community-based organizations, CDA and CDCs now will be aware of what is coming to the local government.
Okay.
We also must take up the issue of internally generated revenue.
Okay.
In that way, we all will be the watchdog of administration at the local government, just as we are watching at other levels. Right. So it's a collective responsibility.
Folashade, I wanted to put this question across to you. Now, should the responsibility of the minimum wage fall on the shoulders of the local government? Do you think that these individuals would deliver, you know, the dividends of democracy to the people when it comes to paying the minimum wage?
Oh, well, definitely. We are under the authority. Whatever the federal government stipulates at the end of the day, what is important now is each state, each local government going to work, being productive, and making sure that we're able to take care of the needs and welfare of our people. That is what is paramount.
All right. Now, Nelson, maybe you want to wrap up with that before we go to the next topic.
The issue of minimum wage, we must always be clear about it.
All right.
It's not something that the federal government can decree. That is why a tripartite committee, it's about minimum wage for workers, whether you are in the public sector or you are in the private sector. And as we speak, a tripartite committee had concluded its work and submitted its findings, its recommendations to the federal government, who is to just announce. But Mr. President, in his wisdom, knowing the intricacies involved, has embarked on wide consultation. Because as we speak, private entrepreneurs, the organized private sector, are shouting that even the 60,000 naira that is being proposed, or 62, that they can't afford it. States have also come out. As we speak, this is 2024. The last national minimum wage was signed in 2019 by President Muhammadu Buhari. A lot of states have defaulted till date.
All right.
So it's not about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signing. It's about what is in the best interest of the Nigerian people. And it is not only about states, can states pay? We will also look at the organized private sector, because they employ the largest chunk of working Nigerians. So what is the fate of the private sector? How would we ensure that the private sector themselves can also pay this money. Right. Because a lot of times people continue to say, oh, states can pay, and federal government can. But are we saying we are going to make a law that will be respected by only the federal government, the states, as we speak? I can tell you for free, I'm not a prophet of doom, a lot of them will be unable to pay that money.
All right, we have to take time out now. And of course, Newsweek continues in a moment. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This week, the federal government unveiled strategic measures aimed at combating the high food prices currently burdening the nation. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, who revealed the plans on his verified X account, stated that the measures will be implemented over the next 180 days with the expectation to reduce soaring prices of food items. According to the minister, these commodities will be subjected to a pricing control regime specifically to be sold at a recommended retail price to ensure affordability. The federal government also planned to import 250,000 metric tons of wheat and 250,000 metric tons of maize, which will be distributed to small-scale processors and millers nationwide. The government assures that all standards will be maintained to ensure the safety and quality of food items for consumption. Right, Nelson Kujime is still right here in the studio with me. Nelson, now, one of the initiatives adopted to fast-track the slash of food prices in 180 days is a 150-day duty-free import window for food commodities. Now, hear this. Suspension of duties, tariffs, and taxes on imports of specific food commodities like maize, ox brown rice, wheat, and cowpeas through land and sea borders. How well effective would this be managed and monitored to actually, create that relief?
We must recognize that a drastic situation requires a drastic solution. We're in an emergency situation. And if the government, in its wisdom, with all the authority it has decided, after due consultation and what have you, to open this window temporarily for 150 days, it tells you clearly that this was not a policy that was just thought over yesterday night. It has been a policy that has been thought over for quite some time, because the issue of opening up the borders has always been the hue and cry, even during the days of former President Muhammadu Buhari. And this administration, even when it came in, said, look, we are going to follow the philosophy of growing what we eat and eating what we grow. But recognizing the challenges facing agricultural sector and the soaring price of goods, of agricultural products, the government has decided that, look, this window is what we are going to add. And the minister has rightly stated, and I'm very sure that the government has the capability to see this through.
Now, Nelson, when you look at some of these items, now earmarked for importation, they are food commodities we can actually grow here. How did we fail woefully in agriculture that brought us to this point?
A lot of challenges have confronted us agriculture-wise. One is the issue of security. You are now aware that the insecurity in the land has driven a lot of people away from the agricultural sector. People can no longer access their farms. Herders can no longer pasture their flock because they are being attacked by cattle rustlers and what have you. Then you look at the issue of financing. Agriculture is not a tea party. It's a serious business. And a lot of persons who want to be in that business don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the finance. Accessibility to land is also a factor. It's also a key factor in this part of the world. That is why one must commend the federal government for pushing the states that, look, we must become food self-sufficient. And that is why even the governor of Niger State, Bago, I'm happy that the man has boosted, and I only hope that he will be the food basket of the nation. I only hope other state governments are taking a cue to also control their quota effectively.
All right, let me quickly speak with Folashade. And Folashade, before I let you go, the 180-day window to allow imports of food commodities to actually alleviate the pains of Nigerians, how did you react to the news? At least before you go, let's hear your view on that.
Well, I think that's really a reality bite that the government had to take quick measures to quickly see that the prices come down and make life a lot easier for the people, but also an awakening for us all that we really need to do something to going back to being productive, because that is really what is sustainable. Allowing goods to start to come back in and all these things, it's not really going to help us. We must be able to produce what we consume and not just be consumers alone. We must also produce. That way we also have excesses to be able to increase our exports and all that. So it's back to work, really, honestly. But I still say thank you for the government being sensitive to the urgent needs of our people. Yeah.
Folashade, thank you very much for your time. We hope when we call on you next time, you'll be there for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now, Nelson, before we wrap up this topic, moving forward, what level of improvement and relief are you hoping to expect after this 180 days window?
Well, I expect that the motive behind that idea is to bring down the prices of foods within that period. So I expect that within that 180 days that we'll start seeing the result, because the measure is a temporary measure. The permanent solution is for us to look inward and ensure that we become self-sufficient, because we are blessed, humanly and, soil-wise.
Yeah.
So one expects that within the next 180 days, that the price of foodstuffs will come down and Nigerians will be able to afford. And the government can be rest assured that we also, on our own part, as civil society organizations, will also be there to monitor.
In a few seconds, are you sure this 180-day window will not make them relax? Because, of course, this is a very quick fix situation, but do you think some of these stakeholders will go to sleep?
No. The government has made a pronouncement that this window is for 180 days. So, and don't forget, the 180 days is not even cast in stone.
Okay.
If there is need to extend to achieve the desired results, I'm sure they will do that.
All right. Now let's move on to our last story for the day. The subject of minimum wage is still on the front burner. As President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio said, state governors no longer have any excuse to complain about payment of a new minimum wage if signed into law, going by improvements in revenues that accrue to them monthly. Akpabio therefore stressed the need for all parties to the minimum wage negotiation to abide by the agreement. This was as Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Nkiruka Onyejocha, said the report of a tripartite committee on the new minimum wage that had been presented to President Bola Tinubu was a comprehensive blueprint that would drastically improve the conditions of service of all Nigerian workers, both in the public and private sector. Now, Nelson, very quickly, now, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio insisted that states are rich enough to pay the new minimum wage if signed into law. Do you share his opinion as well?
I disagree vehemently with Senate President Godswill Akpabio in view of the fact that he's not the one wearing the shoe.
Okay.
So he doesn't know where it pinches right now. He was a former governor. But the truth be told, if you look at the revenue accruing to states from their federal allocation, as well as their workforce, you know that it is easier for the camel to pass through the eye of the needle than for some states to be able to pay. Some states can pay. Okay. But some states, if you look at the figures, except if there are other available indices that is not available to us. But from what we know, from the outside point of view, I disagree vehemently.
But Nelson, let's look at this. Now, the governors have 4 years to come up with a blueprint, right, that can actually sustain payment for workers added to the allocation they get from the center. Now, listen to this. Is the problem with the quality of governors that run for office or a system failure?
No, you see, governance is a continuum. A government that comes into office for 4 years inherits the assets and liabilities of its predecessors. And those contractual agreements that have been signed by your predecessor, you are bound by it. Some of these states are owing backlog of salaries. Before some of these governors came into office, are owing retirees.
But we've had cases of some governors not owing salaries. Why are some governors owing salaries?
Because why some governors are not owing salaries is because their books are not the same. The responsibility confronting state A or the challenges is not. For example, I live in Lagos. There was a time I traveled to Rivers State, and I realized that the environmental challenges facing us. Do you know how much Lagos State government expends on environmental sanitation to ensure that refuse are not on the... Go to some other states. That is not a problem. So the challenges facing states differ from one state to the other. Their finances differ. States don't collect the same amount. Then the cost of living in states differ from one state to the other.
Are you sure you're not making excuses for the governors?
I'm absolutely not. I'm a realist. Because, for example, let me give you these cases. I looked at the workforce of states like Kwara, Ondo, Kogi, and I realized that these states had a workforce of about approximately 30,000 workers. I looked at the FAC allocation they collect in a month. It hovers between 7.5 billion to 8 billion. If you tabulate that for just, and don't forget, when we are talking about 60,000 or 62,000, we are talking of the lowest paid worker. Then you look at level 1, step 1, up to level 17. Not to talk of retirees, not to talk of other needs that the state government need to address. So for me, I think we need to have a discussion about the finances of the states. I won't run blanket with the ability that, oh, states can pay. I'm disappointed that I'm embarrassed that the Senate President can make such a... I don't think that statement, should have come from the Senate President.
Well, you have made quite a number of, bullet points concerning why you think the Senate President might be wrong. But do you think we are gradually moving to the level where laws have to be amplified, right, to mandate governors on compulsory agricultural framework for sustainable growth, because we are blessed with the fertile lands? Now, we hear that some governors don't like to embark on certain projects because they don't have enough kickbacks. We know that some governors would say they are more into construction of roads infrastructure because that is where the money is. Agriculture, these things don't really generate money that much, and that's why they don't really have the passion to do it, because if we have state governors who actually dedicate themselves to growing agriculture, would we be here?
Well, absolutely we will not be here, but the truth of the matter is that I don't think any right-thinking administrator of a state, let me use that word instead of a governor, would assume that agriculture does not matter. I'm a Yoruba man, and we have this saying in Yoruba land that that a hungry man is a mentally imbalanced human being. So any right-thinking person must know that, first and foremost, the welfare of the people, which includes their stomach infrastructure, must be uppermost if you want to have a smooth ride in government house. Okay. So the governors must realize that investment in agriculture is a lucrative business, because one, you earn revenue, your mass of the people will be employed. Also, you become an exporter if you do it properly. So any government assuming that it is all about building schools, building roads, no. We must also be concerned about our food self-sufficiency. There's this notion out there that any nation or any people that does not have food independence, you don't have independence. You are still tied to the apron string of wherever your food is coming from.
So do you agree governors are not utilizing their youth workforce enough to
Absolutely.
Growth?
That is why we are here. And that is why I said earlier on, a lot of our people have misplaced our focus. This issue of agriculture that we are talking about today, if our governors had been up and running, we won't be here. Because under the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is only the governor that has the assent to land, the C of O. So if the federal government is only complementing, we should even be holding even local government. Nothing stops us from holding local government administration also accountable with regards to agriculture, because we have arable land everywhere. So the ball now should be in the court of Nigerians to ask governors that, what are you doing to help our agricultural challenges? How are you contributing to change the landscape? We are not supposed to be here crying about astronomical cost of food prices. Right now, we should even be exporting. Before now, we used to export. But all of us just lost focus, believing that agriculture is for people who don't have anything to do, forgetting that even the richest people, in this world today are people who till the soil. It's even biblical. It's even, religiously. It's even there. So we need to call on our governors, call on our local government chairmen that, look, the time to go back to the soil is now. We cannot continue to depend on food coming from outside the country, or continue to cry that there's no food. Right behind my window in my house, You need to come over there and say, I've started planting vegetables.
Well, I might have to come and...
Absolutely. I'll do a video.
To get a few tips.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you
so much. All right.